I'm Angie Fox, and I am the president and CEO of the Crystal City Business Improvement District, and we are your hosts for tonight. I'm also a recovering electrical engineer, so tech is sort of my background, so there actually are women in tech. And what we have strived to do here in Crystal City is to create an actual tech ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem, and you are part of this. This event tonight is part of this, but who here has been to Crystal City lately? Yay. Okay, so who here has been to the High Line before? Okay, so any runners in the room? So the best place, so in Crystal City, our job is really to transform the whole experience. So every Friday in April, we host a 5K. Anyone here think they can run a 5K? Right, okay, right, yes. So every Friday in April at 6:30 p.m., we host a 5K right here on Crystal Drive, and this is the best space to watch it, because if you don't want to run it, you can sit up here and drink. And all of these glass windows here at the High Line, they open up, so this is kind of like a patio. So who's in for Friday for beer, for watching the runners and cheering them on? Anyone? Awesome. So, but keep coming back to Crystal City. We've got all kinds of tech things that we're continuing to do to sort of build this ecosystem out, whether it's farmers markets, bicycle races, whatever it is. We're about creating collisions in the whole tech space, and we're really glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Where's VORNADO like tornado? Come on up. You are special. What's your name?
I'm Jason.
Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason with VORNADO. I'm the director of our strategic projects. We are a large REIT. We own a big chunk of Crystal City, and we've been working with Angie and her team to bring Crystal City to life and grow our innovation up here. So we're happy to have you all, happy to sponsor, and hopefully everyone has a good time.
Thank you, thank you. Also, Arlington Economic Development, where are you? Come on up, come on up. We're going to have you say a few words. I love the hair.
Oh.
Looking fabulous.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Hi, I'm Christina Wynn. I am the Director of Business Investment Group for Arlington Economic Development. And we have several of our staff people here, if they actually kind of can raise their hand. Natalie Manku and Courtney Pelham, and where does Darren? Okay, Darren Stouffer. So at Arlington Economic Development, we're all about recruiting and retaining businesses, and especially entrepreneurs. I look out in the audience and I see a lot of the businesses that we work with on a daily basis to help them. And we are here as a resource for you. So we have a lot of free business counseling, mentoring, advisory services. We help with business licensing and marketing and promotion, as well as if you're looking to move into Crystal City or Arlington, we also might have incentives for you to actually locate your office. So please come and talk to any of us. We're available to give you consultation or help you in any way you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For our sponsors, everybody, we're going to have our panelists come on up tonight and get started with several questions. We know you guys want to hear from them, so please have our panelists come on up.
My name is Shavanna Miller. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bloompop. I started Bloompop a couple years ago after leaving Rosetta Stone, where I led their web sales and marketing department here in Arlington as well. Bloompop works with local florists across the country. We do primarily corporate floral services, so companies like Tiffany's, Lululemon, Loro Piana, Carolina Herrera, as well as a lot of apartment buildings and office buildings where we provide subscription floral services to them. This year we actually expanded our product line as well to go one step back in the supply chain. So a lot of what I'm working on right now is actually working with flower farmers who sell directly to our local florists across the country.
Fabulous. That sounds great.
My name is Viyas Sundaram. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Snagajob.com. Snagajob is a technology services platform that connects our 68 million hourly workers with our 25,000 hourly employers like Best Buy and Chipotle, etc. We've been around since 2000. We originally founded in Richmond, but have set up our HQ here in the area in Arlington. We are super excited to be here. In fact, so excited we have tripled our space. We're moving in about 45 days.
Yes. Where are you moving? Give us more detail.
We're making the long move from Ballston to Clarendon.
Okay. Woo, big moves. Okay.
Technology service platform that really focuses on putting people in the right positions to fulfill better lives within the hourly space and empowering and fueling our retail, quick service restaurant, hospitality industries from an hourly worker standpoint.
Right.
Okay, hey, I'm Allie Phillips, and I'm with Shift. I'm the GM of the DC market. Shift is my third startup here in the area. I was originally part of the Living Social diaspora, if anyone else is here from that big, huge group. That's dwindling a little now. But Shift is a Silicon Valley-based startup that's about 2 years old, and we are fixing the buying and selling of cars online. Who's ever tried to buy or sell a car? Anyone? So you know that it's like horrible, awful, terrible experience. So we're creating a concierge service for all of that. So if you want to sell a car, we can come out to your house, evaluate your car, offer you a price, take your car away from you, take it to a mechanic and a detailer and a photographer. And then if you want to buy a car, we'll bring test drives out to you. We'll handle all the DMV paperwork. And then you will be rid of your car and in possession of money, or you will be rid of your money and in possession of a new car, and you won't have to deal with any of the hassle.
Thank you. Geoff.
Hello, Geoff Orazem, and I'm one of the co-founders of Eastern Foundry. We're in tech incubators for companies specifically focused on the government space. And so as much as we're trying to help small businesses push their way into government, we're also trying to help government understand how to work with startups.
Dominick Fuccillo, VP of Finance and Growth Ops at Distil Networks. I focus on everything from VC fundraising activity to lease negotiations to figuring out how to improve just about any metric the company has. With Distil Networks, we're a cybersecurity company focused on protecting web applications from malicious computer programs. As I like to say, we basically prevent the matrix screen from accessing websites. So have you ever seen that green text with the black screen? We prevent that from accessing websites. So we just opened up a 100-person office in Arlington, and we're here for the long haul. So great to be here.
Wow. Well, we're going to start with that, and you all can pass around the mic to whoever wants to start. But why did your companies choose Arlington?
For us, Arlington was a natural choice for really a triangulation of 3 items. One is our entire mission being a socially conscious business is surrounded being a part of the community. And Arlington offered a great opportunity to be part of a community that has a large residential piece as well as commercial, which means you have a lot of retail, quick service restaurants, et cetera, that are our customers. The other side of it is that the most important asset to our company was our employees. And we have a tremendous talent pool in Arlington that we're able to pull in, but we also have tremendous talent from all around the region, from DC as well as Reston. So geographically, it just worked out to be a natural location for us for the best of both worlds.
Great.
So we came here originally, we were in DC before. We came here originally because of 2 of our investors, actually. Crystal Tech Fund, which was here in Arlington at the time, as well as CIT Gap Funds. They actually invested in us a couple years back. We ended up loving Arlington, and it's really convenient for all of our employees who come from Virginia, but also from Maryland, DC. Really convenient for us. And of course, we really appreciated that investors in the region were really investing in us, and we like to give back to that.
Alison or Geoff, you all want to?
Sure. So similarly, recruiting talent is a big deal for us. But in addition to what's already been said, Virginia and Arlington are extremely business-friendly communities. The governor of Virginia has been very helpful. The Arlington City Council, the Arlington bid, have been extremely helpful. The Christus Study bid in helping us find office space that's scalable, that scales with our business. It doesn't require us to overcommit because we are still a startup. And the ability to get a combination of good office space near a giant parking lot is really important in the car business as well.
That would help. Okay. Geoff, do you want to add anything to that?
I don't know that much more to add. I think all the same reasons that were already said. I think the only addition that we have is because we are so government focused. Obviously, being here at the epicenter of the government contracting community, being so close to the Pentagon, being within striking distance of really all the civilian agencies made it the obvious choice.
Yeah, obviously echoing all the growth and great initiatives in recruiting. In Arlington, you get about low $40 per square foot compared to DC, which tends to be about $5 to $10 per square foot higher. And you get a lot of really great buildings and really up-and-coming areas. that are great not only for kind of your younger demographic of workers, but as you get older, really very accessible to Falls Church, Reston, a lot of really great areas. So it's a really great position.
Sort of our next question, maybe you can kind of get into that, is how do your companies sort of make that decision between DC, Arlington, somewhere else? Price, location, I'm assuming that's kind of...
Well, I mean, it comes down to what everybody's kind of said. You look at cost, quality of living, and growth, right? Cost, it's the best, and not only in the price per square foot, but you can also tend to negotiate other more qualitative aspects of the lease, such as termination clauses, a number of other aspects of the lease that aren't necessarily have a dollar attached to them, but they are worth something. Then from a quality of living standpoint, it is great to have the burbs so accessible. It really is kind of a jump-off point. And then a growth standpoint, unbelievable recruiting from Reston, Falls Church, all the tech companies that have really grown up and been a big part of the DC scene for the last 20 years. Great to recruit from. And Arlington and everybody really helping out, doing events like this, really focused on the tech sector, makes it a great spot to be.
Got it. Anybody else want to add to that, sort of how your company chose Arlington over DC or another location?
I think the only thing that I would add to that is how supportive the political community in Virginia was. I think that you touched on this, but when we started thinking about opening Eastern Foundry, immediately the congressional delegation from Virginia was engaged. They offered, Senator Warner came out, cut the ribbon with us. That was tremendously helpful as a brand new business that was trying to gain credibility and trying to get some headlines. And so having that level of engagement from county, city, and state level political support, tremendously helpful.
Got it. Anybody else want to add to that? Or shall we move on?
I think the one other thing I'll add is Arlington provides a very unique opportunity for people that are trying to create that cool office environment, which helps with recruiting and for morale, et cetera. Arlington provides that unique opportunity of making the city actually a part of your office experience, aka we're surrounded by a lot of great bars, and a lot of great retail, sorry HR. But no, just able to integrate your office into the community and make it truly like a city feeling office is a great part of Arlington.
What are some of the toughest challenges for local tech? I feel like we could spend a lot of time on this one. So who wants to start?
I mean, our toughest challenge is just finding enough engineers. It's everything in our business is about having smooth operations, which we can juggle for some period of time in spreadsheets and with like wrestling it to the ground with manual labor, but actually you need engineers to map out all of the workflows and keep track of all the different ways that cars can go and need repaired and need detailed and need photographed and all that. And then, so that just requires us recruiting a lot of engineers, which is both a challenge, but also why Arlington presents a great opportunity because we're Silicon Valley based. So we found that we need to be in more than one place to really have access to the amount of engineering talent that we need.
No, that's great. Yeah, keep going.
I'm not sure if this is going to be a particularly insightful observation, but I think there's just a fundamental asymmetry between the biggest employer and checkbook in the region being the federal government and their conduciveness to small business. Small businesses living and dying on a couple months of runway left based on their burn rate. And when you have the biggest buyer in the region who in turn influences the biggest prime contractors to them, i.e. the Lockheeds and the Boeings of the world, if they're working on a multi-year procurement timeline, it's really hard to square that with a company that's burning fast and growing fast.
Yeah, I think the fundraising ecosystem isn't as good as some of the other cities. To say, candidly, we raised our seed round in New York, our Series A in Denver, and then our Series B in San Francisco. So we kind of have been moving out west. It's just there's more investors in those cities, right? It's kind of a supply-demand thing. There's not a lot of supply in the DC area. Where there's a lot of great companies, but not a lot of supply of capital. Whereas as you go out, and especially in San Francisco, there's just a ton more supply. That's the ecosystem. That's how people have built their careers. So I think DC is growing, and I think it's a great trend. I think it's a great time to be here for it. But in terms of fundraising, it is a lot more difficult here, just because there's so many. It's just a limited amount of investors. Where there, there's a decent amount more.
Got it. Viyas or Shavanna, you want to jump in on that?
So I think one of the biggest challenges we have in the local tech community is sort of in line with what Ali was saying, is it's actually cannibalization of local talent, is that when you come across good people, instantly Bloompop, Snagajob, we all start competing for the same top-level engineers, top-level salespeople, et cetera. And I think that goes hand in hand with what was just mentioned, is that there is a little bit of this East Coast versus West Coast, or Washington, D.C. tech scene versus the rest of the New York, San Francisco, Bay Area. And I think that one of the challenges that we really have as a community is really trying to get a little bit more swagger in our recruiting and looking outside of the market and telling people why Arlington is a place for people to come, especially with the proximity to all the great things and the government blanket that we have here as well. So I'd say that really probably talent is probably the biggest challenge.
Okay.
In terms of fundraising, I think that I actually think it's relatively easy to get early funding from angels in the DC area, to get kind of the first $1 million or so in funding. I think that after that is when it becomes more difficult here, and part of that is because the folks that you're raising money from in the early stages don't necessarily have the really, really big pockets like you might have elsewhere. I guess it's sort of like an unsexy thing to say, but at Bloompop we've decided to not get more money. We're just going to go off of our profits and be a business who brings in money and pays our expenses and pays our salaries. But I think that if we were trying to go for a Series A here, it'd be very difficult from the conversations that I've had with other folks, other founders who are trying to raise Series A's and kind of do that next step of fundraising here in DC.
On the opposite scale, so what are some of the best opportunities that are here for local tech that make this area more unique? Anybody want to tackle that? Crickets. Are there none? No.
Sure.
So I think there's actually a couple. I think that the first is actually was just said, is that I think in addition to a lot of high-tech, high-velocity growth tech companies, we're surrounded by a lot of startups that bootstrap it and do it the good old-fashioned way of growing a business. And there's a lot of lessons learned from having that ecosystem of businesses that are literally raising money to spur operations, to catch it on the upswing, versus those that are growing at a good pace the bootstrapped way. I think the other part is the part that we sort of take for granted, is that we are in the DC metro area, right? And the cocktail conversations here are a lot of times around policy and politics and a lot of macro level conversations that this area has that benefit. Like, this is the area where the White House or the Department of Labor will invite you to talk about labor statistics, whereas other markets you don't have access for that, but we also take it for granted, and I think it's a huge benefit.
So I guess I'll just keep playing my role as the token government advocate here. But since I'm since I'm wearing that hat, I'll just keep wearing it. I'll say one of the best things about being in DC, and for no better reason than the SBIR program. So SBIR, for those of you who don't know, a Small Business Innovation and Research Program. 11 government agencies are going to distribute between $3 and $4 billion of non-dilutive capital for angel stage investments. Like, if you just put that in context, they are the biggest angel investor on earth, and they don't want your equity. And it's all being administered out of DC. So any product company under the sun should probably be looking pretty hard at that, because this is the best place to be there, to be for it. And oh, by the way, it gets followed on by 1.5 million in more non-dilutive funds if you get to phase 2. It's a great program that nobody uses.
Wow, that's a great program. I think when you look at it, it's easy to say, so fundraising, supply-demand economics are not great for DC. But that creates inefficiencies that you can actually take really great advantage of. Every other dynamic of starting a company is actually amazing for DC. So even some of our investors who are San Francisco based, they want to know which cities we're opening offices in, because San Francisco, you can't really recruit a sales and engineering team there. The cost of salaries are just too high, the cost of living is too high. They want you to have remote offices, right? And DC is just an unbelievable place to do that, because you have a just great talent pool that, one, is very technical. The data science community here is, I think, second to none. And two, have come from this background of government and come from this background of big commercial enterprises where they're willing and ready to get into a startup, to get their hands a little bit dirtier, to actually be part of a growth story. So I think in terms of actually operating a business, DC is an unbelievable spot to be, and that's why we just invested in a 100-person office here. Even though our fundraising activities might be out west, our operations are back east for sure.
Some major cheers. Who wants to add next? Does anyone want to talk about other best opportunities here for local tech? Alison, Shavanna, you want to add anything to that?
I just agree with what everybody else has said. I don't.
Okay, no, that's fine. So let's talk a little bit about, should local companies be worried about a possible venture capital slowdown? How do you all feel about that? Is the investment flow still coming, or is that sort of slowing?
So our investor community supports the idea that it's slowing, but that not that you just will need different metrics and you'll need to prove out different types of things to get the funding. Not that you can't get the funding, but that the appetite for fast growth, burn money, land grab is lower now, and there's a higher appetite among the investment community for show good unit economics, show good P&L, show a plan to get to profitability if you're not there yet, and then that's the type of thing that will get you that next round.
Okay. Geoff, we know your answer, the government. Like, you have just endless money.
Oh, yeah.
Geoff's like, the government, of course,
yeah,
endless money.
I'm probably the only person in the room that's rooting for a cratering of the VC markets.
What, Geoff?
I mean, because I think it's going to drive lots and lots of small businesses to the revenue positive nature of government contracting. I mean, it's like crazy to think, but like government startups make money on day one. And that's pretty great when you're not getting crazy valuations out west, pulling good talent away from them. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Geoff is pro-government.
Anytime your market's slowing down, you should be worried and you need to act accordingly. I do think that so VCs, most big VCs have just raised a recent fund or have a decent amount of powder still ready to deploy. I think valuations are going to take a big hit. I think there's going to be less focus on revenue growth and more focused on quality metrics such as profitability and cost to acquire customer, all these metrics that are more underneath the revenue line. People are going to start looking at more. And when you start a company in DC where venture capital doesn't come as easy, you tend to be better at those metrics just naturally because it's what it takes to survive. So I do think there'll still be an opportunity for investment. I think just the fact that your valuations aren't as high as some of the other companies who have raised $5 million of revenue but raised at a $500 million valuation, it's really tough to justify that in this market. Whereas companies that have been moving along economically and have been, raising at, customer valuation rates, you'll see good growth and you'll see good investment there. That doesn't mean that they're going to come out and search for you. You definitely need to have a plan. You need to be focused on it. You need to be developing relationships now to raise, but I think there's a ton of opportunity for it.
Viyas, your company is 15 years old, so what's your take on as far as if investment is slowing down?
Well, I think that the first part is that worry is never a strategy, right? You have to have a plan with it. And I think the old adage that when there's blood in the streets, buy real estate is really the positive way of looking at the cycles of the venture capital world. I think that everyone sort of said it best is that a venture capital slowdown really just puts more emphasis on your core business metrics and showing that you actually have the good bones of a growth business that people are willing to invest in. But that piece aside, I do think that and everything happens in cycles, right? The boom doesn't last forever. It does create an opportunity for companies that have really embraced those core metrics and have a good set of bones behind them to take advantage of the talent that comes into the market and better buying opportunities, because it allows them to, ones that have a good plan, to use that as an opportunity to actually reload for the next growth spurt that comes through.
Got it. Thank you. Shavanna, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I agree with this, that it is kind of maybe the market's just being right-sized a little bit right now, and there's this idea of default alive for companies, and it has a lot to do with how much how much cash you're burning, and whether or not you're actually going to be able to become profitable before you run out of it, of course. I do think that you can do a lot with not $10 million. You can do a lot with $1 million. You can do a lot with $300,000, with $500,000. So I think that maybe there's going to be a little bit more emphasis now on making that stretch further before you just decide to throw more and more money at it.
Oh, I love it. That's a great answer. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What do you think the future holds for local tech and for tech in general? Geoff, we know, more government. No. Alison, do you want to start?
Yeah, I guess for local tech, I mean, I only see it growing here. As soon as the word gets out more and more, we're finding that we're attracting more and more engineers to this area. We're attracting more data scientists, as you said. We're developing our own sort of centers of excellence that the government is spinning off, because that is a huge density of data science requirements and other things. So, I mean, I only see it I only see us, drawing back a lot of the talent that maybe went west in years previous.
Great. Geoff or Dom, do you want to take that question?
You answered for me.
I love it. You're an easy panelist. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I'm very optimistic. I think it's going to be real interesting. There's, I think, a lot of smart people dedicated to solving what does the repeatable business model look like in DC. And I think it's a great opportunity to work on that over the next 5, 10, 15 years to figure that out, because I think it's just a wonderful business opportunity and going to employ a lot of people. So.
Okay. You all want to add?
I'm actually very excited about the local tech community because I think that, to a little bit of the conversation earlier, us being the little brother or little sister to the West Coast VC world, I think that we are at a point in the growth curve of this region where big hits, big wins, companies that make a big brand in the area and actually nationally have a much larger kaleidoscope impact in the market, whereas the next big startup in San Francisco, while it's another big startup, that kaleidoscope impact is a little bit smaller. And I think that if you look at this panel here and other businesses in the area that are making those strides to being those high impact businesses, I think the exponential impact for the rest of the economy is actually pretty big and actually has really good positive trends for the market.
That's great.
That's a good point.
Do you want to add anything, Shavanna? Or sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Geoff.
So I actually do have one observation that's outside necessarily the government sphere on this topic, and I apologize, probably fits better into the previous question. But one thing I think that this community could do that would help it a lot would be to, and this is a little wonky, but make it easier for certificate-based coding academies to move into Virginia. And we happen to work fairly closely with a couple, Iron Yard, General Assembly, a couple of these other groups that are having tremendous success in DC, training the next wave of coders, engineers, the people that everybody else is trying to hire. Because of Virginia regulation, it's extremely difficult for them to open doors here. And that shifts in that, I think, would do tremendous good for the Virginia tech scene.
Okay. Do you want to add anything, Shavanna, to that? No, you're good. Okay, what's the coolest thing that you all are building right now within your companies?
Okay, I got the mic, so I'll go.
Okay, go.
I think the coolest thing that we're building right now, at least one of the coolest things we're building right now, is our pricing algorithm. So one of the hardest things about selling or buying a car is knowing what to price your car at or what's a fair price to pay. And it's such a non-normalized data set where, there's obviously make, model, trim, mileage, but there's also, do you have aftermarket installations, how much wear and tear on it, how many owners, how many accidents, is there a sunroof, is there a whatever, GPS, all these different things, and it's all out in the market, but you have to figure out how to extract it and understand what it means and attach a price to it. So our engineers are hard at work on that.
Geoff, what about you? What are you all working on?
So for those of you who read 0 to 1, we are solidly a 1 to N kind of company as far as what we're trying to do to innovate in the government contracting space. So the thing I'm really excited about is for those of you who know Stack Overflow, anybody Stack Overflow? Some
Stack Overflow peeps. Okay.
Some Stack Overflow
Turn the back.
fans here. So we did a lot of research on what made Stack Overflow work so well, and so we're going to be releasing Fed Overflow in a couple months. And this is the same basic model of people giving a forum for people to ask really, really inside baseball questions about government procurement rather than coding.
Okay.
Really excited about that. Cool.
Dom?
Obviously, I was going to actually answer it first with our data science team, but now that we've talked about pricing algorithms, I won't repeat that because data science really is a very exciting place, especially sitting in DC. We're really building out our login fraud business. There's about 1 billion usernames and passwords floating around the dark web. People write computer programs to test logins across thousands of sites. Right now, it's relatively unguarded. We've built out a pretty strong defense system for that, and we're starting to work with Fortune 500 retailers amongst a lot of other large companies that really have this problem of someone uses the same username and password on 50 different sites. They can be compromised on 49 of those, right? So it's something that we're building out, which has been a lot of fun.
Viyas, what are you all working on?
We're working on all kinds of cool stuff. One of the great things is recently, in January, we just closed a $100 million round that helped pull a lot of our projects up forward. And the one project, which isn't going to sound as sexy as first, but we think is very, very sexy, is actually we're deploying our scheduling product. So when you think about our marketplace, and as I mentioned before, and we live in the world of a lot of zeros, is we have 68 million hourly workers that build a profile and use our app and our platform to connect with hourly employers. So places like this place, or Buffalo Wild Wings, or you name it. What it really does is that we make about 6 million unique connections a year. So you think about the 60 million people or so that get employed every year, like we connect about 10% of them. And when you think about that world, we're very excited because it's sort of been this unidirectional hourly worker finds employer. We're about to roll out scheduling, which both the employer and a worker can use to manage their schedules. And what it does is it does two things. It allows an employer, like Highline, to find new innovative ways to manage their performance and employee pool, et cetera. But even more exciting for us, it really completely disrupts the market and breaks the poverty cycle for the hourly worker. So think about an hourly worker who's dependent on shift after shift in order to make ends meet, and in many cases even pay their rent. And sometimes they're only given 20 hours of shifts because there might be regulations that a company doesn't want to give more hours than that. Our scheduling solution sets the foundation for a worker to snag a shift and literally go move our company to the on-demand marketplace. So an employer has the dishwasher doesn't show up for the day, they can literally choose a Snagajob certified employer, and poof, that person shows up. And vice versa, someone wants a 40-hour week, but they want to make sure that the 2 to 4 slot every Thursday is open. They can snag shifts that actually allow them to meet their schedule. So
very cool. Shavanna, what about you all?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned we were working on Fresh Cut. So we've been working with florists for the past couple of years on Bloompop. And one thing that we learned with working with them is that there's actually a huge opportunity, a couple steps back here in the supply chain. Florists spend so much money on their cut flowers. It's the basis for everything they're doing at their companies. With Fresh Cut, it's an online marketplace that actually allows flower farmers to list all their products, set the prices, et cetera, and have florists buy from them directly. And this is kind of a part of the industry that's really been dominated by wholesalers, traditional brick and mortar wholesalers with huge overhead. They have these huge refrigerated warehouses for a very long time. And what those wholesalers are doing is they're buying a stem for $1 from a flower farmer and then selling it for $2 to the florist. With Fresh Cut, those flower farmers we're seeing that they're basically listing their flowers for about $1.70. So the farmer is making more money, and the florist is actually able to purchase their product at a lower cost as well, and get it fresher because the flowers are cut to order, shipped overnight to their doorstep. So it's super exciting for us because it's obviously not what we set out to do, but at the very beginning. But it kind of is a good example of what happens when you actually listen to your customers and figure out where are their needs and where are those needs not being served as best as they could be.
Got it. Are any of you hiring, and for what? Do you want to go for it?
We're hiring salespeople.
Okay.
Yep.
We're hiring for everything. We've gone from 3 to 70 people in the past 18 months in the Arlington office alone.
Okay.
And so we are looking for engineers, mobile developers, sales folks, product marketing, you name it, we are currently looking at it. So if you know of anyone, obviously go to snagajob.com and we have a full list of our careers that we're looking for.
Got it. Alison, what about you?
Yep, we're hiring for everything too. Everything for us means software engineers, product managers, as well as car people. So car salespeople, mechanics, detailers, people who love cars.
Okay. Geoff.
We just made a wave of hiring in 2016, so we're going to be pausing for a few months, but yep, soon enough.
Okay.
Yeah. We're also hiring for just about every position. Some of our priority hires, product manager, which I actually think is a really fun position. Get to kind of shape the product, where the company's going, do a lot of deep research onto all the different aspects of cybersecurity that we focus on. Solutions engineers and sales engineers, if you know anyone who's technical and has been part of an implementation engineering team or a pre-sales engineering team, definitely hiring those. Can't get really a great program, especially comparative to some of the other places in DC. And yeah, that's about it. That's our priority hires, at least. But go to the website, distilnetworks.com/jobs. So.
Thank you, Dom. We're going to ask you guys a couple of personalized questions here before we wrap up. Alison, let's start with you. What is it like being a woman, of course, in a mostly male-dominated business?
Well, there's lots of women here, so maybe it's not as male-dominated as we think.
Is that true? So is that basically, I know, that's the second time I brought it up, but is that kind of an old stereotype? Is it basically now 50-50?
It isn't. No, it's definitely not 50-50. I mean, somehow I've ended up my whole career in male-dominated industries. I was in consulting, and then been doing startups and engineering technology. There's plenty of data out there to show that actually if you reach it's about 30% women on your executive team or on your board, especially with most of the research is with public companies, but I think it applies here as well, that your outcomes improve. And there's a lot of hypotheses about why that could be. I think one of the main ones is that you want your team to reflect what your customer looks like so that you have the perspectives, a variety of perspectives, so that you can understand your customers' perspectives and understand what they may need, and that includes all kinds of diversity, not just gender diversity, but all kinds of diversity. And another hypothesis I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, maybe this is just a stereotype, but that women tend to behave more collaboratively in business environments and make sure that all the different diverse viewpoints are heard. So I think those are some reasons why diversity is really good in the workplace, and in terms of what's it like to be a woman, then you feel a little bit more of a responsibility to represent those viewpoints of your other types of clients and of your employees, and mentor the women that are coming up after you, and keep an eye out for the diverse perspectives.
Okay, that's good. There are a lot of women here. Do you hate being asked that question? Are you like over it? Over it. Okay, that's the last time we're
I
over
think you should
SNL.
maybe ask one of the men what's it like to be a man in a
There you
male-dominated
go.
workplace.
Excellent. Let's go with Geoff. Geoff, this is going to force you to speak about something aside from government. Are you going to be able to handle this?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, take it away, my friend.
So 60% of the Eastern Foundry team is female, so I feel outnumbered all the time.
Oh, good.
And
Okay,
so,
good.
No, so I can speak on what it's like to be a man in a woman's world at Eastern Foundry. But so what are is that, happy to speak more about that. It's no surprise, government contracting is still a very male-dominated industry. Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay, well, wait. We're going to ask you another question about your business. So there seems to be an emerging tech ecosystem, as we've been talking about here in Crystal City. What do you think the future holds for this area specifically here in Crystal City?
So I think Crystal City in particular is really being buffeted forward on the winds of VORNADO's aggressive courtship of tech sector companies. I mean, I think that if I'm being honest with myself, they're 100% of the reason I'm here is VORNADO. They courted me, they wanted me here, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. There it is. That's the whole story. But it's not just me. Like, look at within the past 12 months, they've courted WeWork. 1776 has come here, a little over 12 months, but Tech Shop is here. I mean, they're putting their money where their mouth is, and when you have a multi-billion-dollar REIT trying to revitalize, and who's not just a REIT, but they're also kind of like the mayor of Crystal City. They own so much of the property here that they take a very long view of their economics and of their portfolio. So I think that as long as VORNADO continues to push toward a innovation, small business friendly environment in Crystal, it can only succeed.
Got it. Dom, one, what's it like being a man in this tech world?
I guess I'll actually say that in terms of another suggestion that'd be great for Arlington is anything that can help recruiting, any avenues to help recruit in a more diverse way, I think is very well accepted in the community. I know at Bessemer we had a CFO email chain where literally we were emailing. There was some job posting that was, I believe it was women re-entering the workforce, and everybody took to it. Everybody was really focused on it. Everybody signed up for it. So if there's ever any links or any programs going on, I know people want to know about it, right? So let's definitely make that something to do, because I think it really is great, and I think it's so important to the better acceptance of the tech as a whole. So I think it's critical to focus on.
So, anything else?
No,
I didn't mean to
that's it.
cut you off. Okay, specifically about your business, you all have offices here,
Yep.
London, Stockholm. How do you keep everyone on the same page?
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough one. It's you kind of feel like you have big business problems in a small business, which is never good. One is just communication, and then just brutal honesty and quick feedback. It's real easy to kind of sit on something for a week and just say, and kind of let it fester and just talk about it internally. But you got to be quick. If you disagree with something in another office, you just got to have really good communication and really focus on it. That, and actually making all your meetings webinar-based with webcams on has seen a big shift. If you're just talking on the phone, it's easy to forget. It's tough to connect. You have the webcam on. You're doing a screen share. It's helped definitely connect a little bit better. So,
a lot of things to juggle there. Viyas, let's talk mobile. So is mobile posing any special challenges in the job search space?
No, it's actually the exact opposite for us. Mobile is really allowing us to get access to a market that traditionally couldn't leverage technology. You look at all the wonderful staff here at Highline, you don't see anyone in front of a desktop right now. They're either pouring drinks, passing up food, refilling containers, whatever it is. The mobile app has really allowed the manager, the general manager here, to recruit and run their business in real time in between filling the ketchup dispenser. And vice versa, you think about our demographics. So if you look at the 68 million users that we have, over 55% of them are millennials between the age of 16 and 34, I guess, is our biggest demographic as the high end of that range, not really millennials. But when you look at that, and in that market, we have 3 times the brand recognition of LinkedIn, actually. And the reason is because that demographic, many times, they may not even have a desktop or a laptop. So they are going to being a mobile-first business. And it's really just the ante for entering disruptive tech right now is having a mobile app that makes it easily accessible by any walk of life within the market.
Got it. Shavanna, I think we kind of talked about Fresh Cut. Is there anything else you wanted to add about Fresh Cut, or is there any stereotypes you want to kill tonight? Any questions I should never ask again?
Oh, about being a woman in the workforce? I mean, I think that one thing, too, is that I think people obviously tend to kind of hire people who are similar to them as well. For example, Bloompop is like the vast majority of us are women, even like female engineers, et cetera. So I should probably do a better job of hiring men. In terms of Fresh Cut, what specific question?
I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to add about Fresh Cut, any other challenges that are kind of unique to you all, or the opposite, anything that's really good for you?
I think one thing that's really been really great for us, when I first started Bloompop, it was actually a consumer-focused company, because that was what my experience and background at Rosetta Stone was. We pretty quickly shifted our focus to B2B, to selling to retail stores, property management companies, et cetera. And having that experience with Bloompop, I think, has really helped us. So, for example, with Fresh Cut, if you were getting married and you wanted to have flowers that you could DIY for your wedding, Fresh Cut would not be for you, unfortunately. So, and part of that is just the really high customer acquisition costs for consumers. We realized that having a smaller number of customers that are placing much larger orders on a very frequent basis is obviously a larger recipe for sustainable business. So for us, having Fresh Cut, being able to build that on top of our experience with Bloompop has been really huge for us.
Got it. How much time do we have? Are we good? Okay. Thank you all panelists so much. You guys were fantastic. Thank you for Arlington Tech panelists. Dom, thank you. Geoff, Alison, thank you guys so much. Thanks. Okay, we're going to be drinking, so use your drink tickets. And then I hear there's like an Arlington ARL Now t-shirt giveaway. I'm dying to win this. When are we drawing? When is that? Scott Broadbeck from ARL Now is like, I didn't plan that. Oh, we've run out of sight. Okay, actually, scratch the t-shirt. Just get another drink. You'll forget about the t-shirt. Thank you guys again for coming.